Next, we have a speaker who comes to us all the way from Australia, where I am. It's so exciting. And she has worked in the home and the hospital and birth center, and she went on and got another degree in public health. And we're so excited to hear some about midwifery in Australia, midwifery as she sees it, and specifically for independent midwives. So welcome, Tani. I'm so glad to have you. Will you give us a little intro?
Thank you so much. So I am an Australian midwife. I'm an endorsed private practicing midwife. I studied a Bachelor of Midwifery initially, and that led me to do my midwifery degree. So I didn't become a nurse, first of all. I studied 3 years of midwifery. And during that time, I worked in birth centres and hospitals. And afterwards, I went on to work in hospitals where I would attend normal birth, very rarely physiological birth, lots of cesareans, lots of instrumental births, lots of medication and lots of cascades of interventions which would ultimately lead to a vaginal birth, but perhaps not a physiological birth. So it's quite rare to see a physiological birth in hospital in Australia these days, and I can say that quite easily. The reason I became a midwife was because I had a home birth myself. I have 4 children, and my last baby was born at home, and then I realized that I wanted the job of the midwife, so I've pursued it ever since. So the women that I look after at home in Australia have the option of having water birth in their own home. That can be in their own bathroom or within a big tub, which is brought to them. So then they can have whoever they want at the birth. They can have their own children, their partner, a doula, sisters, or perhaps no one, just the midwife. Our legal requirement is to have 2 midwives at a birth in Australia. And I also attend a lot of births in Australia as the backup midwife. And it's very enjoyable to be welcomed into other people's homes and meet their family and look after them for the whole pregnancy until the baby is 6 weeks old. It's very, very special. And today, I think I just wanted to have a little chat about, especially for any newer midwives, about taking opportunities that are presented to you, such as this. So I couldn't say no to Leila or Augustine. This is just an incredible opportunity to be able to share with midwives all around the world. It's so exciting to meet you all. And I think often as midwives, we are taught to say no quite often, you know, create your own boundaries. I can't work at this time. I can only take a certain amount of women to look after. That's outside of my scope of practice. And I just wanted to talk to you about saying yes to opportunities. So being open to opportunities as they arise, and following something that we call the law of attraction. So imagining where you want to be working and how you want to be practicing, and the steps that you can go about having that happen. So midwives are a humble bunch of people, and they are gracious, and we do say thank you a lot as well. So we say thank you for inviting me into your home and your space, and thank you for letting me care for you. We say thank you for letting me learn from you. And often we forget about where we're headed and what we're looking for. So I think what's apparent at this time is that life can change very dramatically, and things can change. And sometimes things will happen that will take you away from where you imagine that you would be. So there might be something that happens at your workplace or with your family, or there might just be a global pandemic and that'll stop you in your tracks, and life all of a sudden doesn't look the same as how it did. So you're nodding along there because this is where we're at. So yeah, the rug can sometimes be pulled from underneath you, and you have to learn how to pivot very quickly and make it work in your favor, or it's not going to happen and life won't move forward. And I guess you'll keep grappling for whatever your life looked like previously if you don't learn to move quickly. So this is especially apparent at this time, and this is a time where magic can happen, really, because sometimes you will imagine what you would like to do throughout your career, and it might be something 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now, and you say, you know, I have these midwifery goals and I have something I have to do before I'm not a midwife anymore, and, you know, boxes to tick. And if you're open to the opportunities, they may just come at you much quicker than you expected. So the law of attraction starts with being open to things happening, and it's relevant to all things in life, but especially in midwifery, because we're a global network and doors fling themselves open in front of you and you have to be willing to jump in. So I guess one of the biggest things as well is removing the belief that you're not ready, or you're not good enough, or you're not clinically trained enough, or you can't speak in front of people. But from experience, the first time you do it is always the first time you do it. Then it's going to be the second and the third and the fourth, and you'll keep going. And that first time isn't going to happen again. So remove the belief that you can't do something will open up a world of opportunities. And this, especially now, is a really good time to make those wild plans that seem just way too out there, that perhaps you never thought you could achieve, because our connection is becoming so small. And especially for me, tomorrow is when International Day of the Midwife begins. So I've just connected with midwives from all over the world, and all it takes is an inbox or a message to say hello. And maybe one day I'll end up in Iran, or maybe one day you'll end up in Australia, or perhaps we'll all meet up in India. But there's connection there from the click of a button, right? So just stay really positive, reach out and take some action if you want to do something different. The thing that led me to this happened very early on in my training. I was a student midwife, and I had a very negative experience when I was looking after a mother and her partner, and so much that it stopped me in my tracks, and it was time to decide whether or not this career was for me. And I really was forced to pivot very, very quickly. And it was a blessing in disguise, because it led me down a path that I never imagined on day one of midwifery training. And I've worked across the world, and I can do that at any time. I'm ready to do it again. I've done it once, and it's definitely in my future again. It's a beautiful lifestyle when you have a family. Midwifery can take you anywhere. And I just think being open to adventures, and they can be in your own backyard, they can be in your own community. So I think that's about the end of my TED Talk now. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to add.
We're so grateful to have your words of wisdom. You are so my people, Tani. I just want to tell you, like, you're just like, I feel ya. Yeah, it's quite a thing. I say the phrase like leap and the net will appear in the same kind of avenue where you are. Like, you just never know. And I think we as midwives are better than anyone to get that phenomena. You just never know in birth or in life. And I love your message. Like, get prepared to leap, get prepared to pivot, get prepared to do something amazing, unique, different. Just say yes.
Yes. And I have one for you, and that is
Okay.
bloom where you're planted.
Oh.
100%.
I feel that. I feel that all the way. Thank you for coming on and adding your wisdom, really heart-centered, beautiful wisdom to this call, to this circle. I'm so glad to know you. I'm so glad to share you with the world now. And I hope that we can do it again and find more ways to have extraordinary connections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely. And your video, your previous live video that we had together, you were talking about some of your challenges and about insurance. When I published for Iranian midwife, they get so much happy that they understood that there are in some part of the world, there are somebody that they have the same issue that we are engaging in Iran. So this word is really so overwhelming for all of the midwives. They feel passionate together. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Leila.
Okay, so your presentation finished completely.
Yeah.
If people, girls, if you have any question from Tani Pax, I know that you have many questions, and I remember after her live video, you had too much question about her. No more question? We have 7 minutes, but I can ask some question that frequently you asked before. The midwives from Iran, they were asking that how you could open birth center, and do you have any license for that, or is a governmental legacy for the opening birth center in Australia? Because in Iran, we are trying and we are too much negotiating with Ministry of Health to open birth centers because of COVID-19 management. So we want to know and learn from you how we have to negotiate and how we can open this way.
Sure. Well, I believe there's a course you can take in opening a birth center. Yeah, look, in Australia, that's a very big hurdle to jump, and it really is a life's work, really. That's how I see it at the moment, unless you had people that were very action focused and prepared to chase it very hard and have there's a lot of red tape, right? There's a lot of government restriction around it. So I really don't know the way around it, but I know it has happened in my region, and I know it has been shut down in my region.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so yeah, it's, look, you know, I think it's so many midwives' dream, really. And I'm not saying it's an unattainable dream, it's a very attainable dream. But I think that has to be your central passion.
Right, that's great.
Yeah.
The other things that most of them are in midwife, can I ask one more question or no?
Sorry?
Yeah, can I ask more questions? Is okay?
Yeah,
I
sure.
think we have still 3 minutes, because our midwife, our junior midwife who are graduated recently, they are not that much competent to start their own individual business, individual practice. Because in Iran, after they finish, they can have 2 years working for a government as an internship, and after 6 years, they can start their own individual practice under medical council licensing. So how's for you, how this works for Australian midwife, if they are allowed to start their own practice after finishing their graduation, or they should go 2 years working for government, and or you have some extra internship courses that is obligatory for there? Is it like that? Can you share some?
Yeah, sure. Currently, the requirement is 5,000 clinical hours performed within 6 years. So if you look at the demographic of midwives, typically they're not young, straight out of school. Often across the world, they've already had some children themselves. So to accomplish 5,000 clinical hours when you have children at home yourself, it's very difficult. And within a 6-year framework, I mean, it's so difficult. You have to have a very good support system around you. And this is not the right way to do it. It's not the right way to do it. I must say that I prefer the apprenticeship model that America has in some ways, because it's not giving independent practitioners a well-rounded practice to start with, because you need to experience more physiological birth and more emergency scenarios and more documentation and business skills and these things that give you a well-rounded experience in private practice. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it can be done with a lot of support around you.
Okay, good, great. So where they do their practice, new graduated midwife, how they can empower their knowledge and their skills? Do they have, like for us, we have a governmental sector that we have to work and be more competent after 2 years. Do you have such these sectors that they can go and practice under government supervisor?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you finish your degree and you go into either a private hospital, a public hospital, a combination, or, you know, you train with a home birth midwife as well. And we have so many different styles of birth in Australia. At the moment, we're really pushing for government funding for home birth because it's expensive for women to have to pay for this. If the government was to pay for a private midwife, an independent midwife, it's open to every woman in Australia. So at the moment, our home birth rates have increased exponentially over pandemic times, right? But typically it's very, very small amount of women who are home birthing in Australia. And cost is a big prohibitor.
Oh, that is so
challenging. If our government would pay the midwife, it would be for everyone.
I think it is a global issue that the governments don't provide individual midwives. And you told me that time that you are not, government doesn't cover any insurance for midwifery care outside of hospital.
Not for the birth, not for the labour and the.
Not for labor.
So our Medicare covers for antenatal and postnatal, but not for the labour and birth.
Oh, for prenatal and postnatal, they will provide it. Okay. So your midwife should be very innovative to find some marketing skills and to be more sociable, how to achieve their clients, is not? They should be very smart.
Yeah. There's a lot of emphasis on collaboration and having good relationships with all practitioners, and that's really important anyway. But it's also reminding women that that midwifery care is the best care. The continuity of care is the best care you can have.
That is the lovely thing. That is the good culture that you get about midwifery. Very lovely. Thank you so much. It was so lovely session. If anybody have any question, can ask. I think no more question. So I hope we will have you more in our other session, in our other program. Thank you for your support and your love. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.